Hey everybody, I'm Chris Linder and you're watching Push Entrepreneur Episode 1. Today I'm interviewing Chad Nikkel. Chad's an industry entrepreneur. He's got a lot of insight, sits on a lot of different boards, and the guy just comes with an action-packed ton of experience. So hopefully today's a good day, and I hope you like what we see.
Entrepreneurs in the place to be. You gotta push. Yo, keep up the faith, but move hastily. Push. Live out your passions and take your dreams. Push. Overcome struggles and celebrate victories.
I appreciate you coming in and talking to us a little bit. And I know a lot of people, you've got a lot of knowledge as an entrepreneur and a lot of experience. And so, I know there's a lot of people out there, like to hear what your opinion is on things and just some of the things that you've gone through to get to where you are. You're one of the guys that I'd identify in my circles, that has been there, started at from the bottom, right, man? I mean, just as hard as it gets. And we can talk, I'd love to have you share a little bit of your story, where you came from, but, to get to where you're at today and how that's happened. And, I think one of the things that, we notice with people is, there's, we can get so much information now that, I think people, and you're able to hear people's opinions with social media and show them what you want them to see type of thing. And, my take on it is I think people just, think that things happen super, super fast and that there's just this instant success or if I do this now, there's a silver bullet. And if I know anything about my journey and yours, as well as any of the other guys that I really know, it's very seldom that I feel like there was just this one silver bullet that did it for this guy, or maybe that's all we see, but it's all those things that led up to that one opportunity. It may have been one big opportunity that put that person on the map, but there's all the other stuff that you just don't see. And, I know enough about your story that it's, I think it's inspiring and good for people to hear. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit of that, I know, going back to, early days of growing up, where you did, and I know you started your business at a young age, and what that brought. What can you share about a little bit of that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can tell you, there's no silver bullet. We'll start there. So I personally have started, bought, or sold 7 different businesses in my life, and a couple of those were massive failures. One of them I lost in bankruptcy, and I can tell you that, and that was very early on in my life. So I started my first business ultimately as a teenager. I was 15 years old, and I grew up in Central Kansas. That business was in Central Kansas. I grew up, in a very conservative religion, and was encouraged you go to work very young, right? Like higher education was not necessarily encouraged in that specific religion. And I would tell you that I was wrong for that anyways, because I did spend, a bit of my time, I decided at some point I was going to go to college, and I went and I spent 2 semesters in college and decided it wasn't for me. But I started a small roofing exterior company when I was a teenager. And while my buddies were out carousing around and chasing girls, I was writing estimates at night and, trying to make ends meet and make that business work. And I can tell you, I probably learned at least a third of what I know today from that business, from an entrepreneurial perspective, and for sure from a construction perspective. And I got married very young as well. So, it was some of that stuff kind of went along with it.
That's right. So, am I wrong? Is it 15? Is that no?
15. Yep. That's correct. Yep.
That's I remember that. It just blows my mind. And you look at what everybody goes through on their, their day, man. It's like, you can get so much done, and then you enter that married world and you got to share that time and all this. And I'm thinking, man, this guy started out with having to take care of another person right out the gate, not any real opportunity to just, totally fumble your way. And I can get by. I can live in my truck if I got to while I'm trying to figure it out. Or you got somebody else to take care of at a young age. I mean, and I mean, a girl, really,
the wife isn't super interested in living in a truck. I can tell you that.
You don't think Shelly go live in a truck now?
I doubt it. Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe she would have then. Now for sure as heck not. It's too long in Scottsdale. No, yeah, she, we had some tough times then too. I mean, we lost that first business to bankruptcy due to a lawsuit kind of early on. And there was a period of time where, we had a frozen bank account for a while. I mean, we lived on, I want to say $40 to $60 a month in grocery budget. That was our budget, and I get employees now that are like, oh, I can't make it on, $13 an hour. And I'm like, well, I understand it's difficult to live, but when you're starting out, you don't have to go to the movies every weekend. And, I mean, you gotta, you take some of those things that we have now for granted, but I can tell you can make it through. It sucks, but you can make it through. I work.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't make it on this. No, you may not want to make it. You can't do it the way you want to do it, but to say you can't, that's garbage, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. Your buddy's got more money. He's doing this, he's doing that, or she's, whatever. And you can't go do those things, but that's not your situation. Your situation is what it is right now. And what you're going to do about it is what's going to determine who you become. Right. I mean,
you can't make it through. I during that period of time, I had a job at night, try and make ends meet. I, drove a truck for my dad on the weekends. There's other things that you do to, make it through. And I would tell you, as an entrepreneur, growing a business, the goals of growing a business in those periods of times have to be flexible to some degree, because, you set a goal for a business and something happens, you have to readjust and look at those things and get to that next reality, if you will.
Yeah, you got planes flying over there. I can hear them, but
yeah, I'm on my back porch. I got a plane flying over. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it looks nice in Scottsdale. It's a little gloomy here and rainy, but so here's what always has stuck in my mind with you. And I met you at a young age. Most random thing. I respond to this ad that's at that time. I mean, honestly, I think it was in the newspaper. If that sounds funny saying that now.
Could have been, yeah.
It was. And, for those who don't know, I worked with Chad and worked for Chad. And so I answered this ad, this amazing sounding ad. It was, wow, this sounds like a great opportunity. It had to do with roofing. And, I'm like, well, I got a roofing background. I grew up second generation contractor, and this sounds like something I could do. It was sales, but I didn't know anything about sales. So, I was like, well, roofing, whatever. And I'll go and check it out. And, that was the first day I'd ever met you. And it's funny how you probably don't remember at all, but when somebody that, you meet somebody that first time where, hey, this guy's got something going that I haven't quite come across yet before. He's got a way about him, or, he's got some things in place, or he's doing those things that, from a young guy looking in, you look at it and you go, what's making this special, and how can I be a part of it? And it's weird how, that can happen. I don't know if, if you remember at that time you had just moved into the Denver market, and you were running another roofing company prior to that, big roofing company in Ohio, I think.
Yep.
And,
well, I tell you, I don't honestly remember the ad and stuff. All I remember is that Green Valley Ranch and Chris Linder was selling deals to blind people in Green Valley Ranch. It was awesome. I can't remember the customer's name, but Chris Linder was there was some lady that I remember we had to put the contract under this projector so she could see it. Cause she was really
Ruth Jenkins.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. I just remember you were a star sales guy, and however you responded, it was awesome. That was a good little Green Valley Ranch, man. There, I mean,
That
that's
was
all
good.
covered in houses now, but there wasn't very many that day, you know.
No, that was and that's I got just on that note. I'll never forget. So talk about getting your, put your feet in the fire, right? So I tell guys when I be, training new sales staff or just speaking at different things. I talk to guys about my first experience, and like I said, I had zero. Man, I had zero sales experience, and what I would say is maybe I could speak fairly well, or, the biggest thing I had going is I understood what a roof was, and I knew, that it had shingles on it. It was about as much as I knew, but I remember, being told it was roofing sales. And it was for insurance restoration. And for those who don't know, after a big hailstorm, insurance companies, have to adjust these roofs to see if they're going to replace them or not. And so we were out there meeting with people, so I'm told, here's what you do. You just go out there, you tell them that you're going to take a look at this roof of theirs, see if it's damaged. And if it is, you're going to work with the insurance company and you're going to get them a free roof. The most they would ever have to pay is their deductible, pretty much, and I'm kind of still not even really I didn't really understand how the insurance company, why they would be paying for all this. That was how green I was. I still didn't even get it. I didn't totally understand anything or where we were going to get the money, because I was told, don't ask anybody for money, so I'm going out there, and I get introduced to this guy, and I'll never forget. So it's Bo Markham. So here comes this little dude, got former Marine. He's about sawed off. He's about 5'3", he's got forearms, look like Popeye, belly out to here. And Bo says, I'm your sales manager. Get in the truck. We're going to go. Okay. So he, grabs a bunch of stuff and he drives me out this area. He goes, this area's got a lot of damage. All these houses, they're all going to need new roofs. Okay. And he hands me a stack of contracts and
start knocking.
A bunch of these plastic yard signs, So I'm like, okay. And I said, so what do you do? He says, you go up there, you tell them you're going to inspect the roof. You go up there and you see if there's any damage. You come down, you tell them to sign this. If they sign it, then you push a yard sign into their yard and you tell them that you'll meet with their adjuster, and you make sure they have your phone number and to call you when their adjuster calls them. That was, that's what I was told. So
that's the pitch today, probably, right?
Yeah, probably for most. And so it's okay. So I got my arms full. I got all these signs and these stakes, and all these contracts. And I'm like, man, he's like, just stuff all this stuff under that bush over there. And if you get one sold, you come back and you grab one of those signs, you go stuff in there. I'll be back in a couple of hours. You're going to be fine. It's like 100 degrees, Colorado sun beating. So he leaves, he comes back a couple hours later, and I'm fit to be tied. I'm so upset. I've never did my first day doing this. He just leaves me out there, and comes back, and he's driving down the road, and you probably remember this story, but all he's seeing is all these yard signs. He'd hand me a bunch of yard signs. He comes up, he goes, hey man, you can't just go putting those signs in people's yards. You can't just put them wherever you want. And I said, listen, man, I'm out of signs. I'm out of contracts. Where have you been? You told me 2 hours. It's been 3. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I left you with like 14 of them. I said, you left me with 13. And I've been out for 2. I need 2 more to put up the 2 I've got. I had 15 deals that first day.
Need some more contracts.
Yeah. And I'm like, I need more contracts, And I'm like, I had no idea what I just did, period. All I know was I told them that every house in this neighborhood is going to get bought. And my boss told me this. I went up in the roof. I didn't even know what hail damage looked like. And it was light damage. I mean, knowing now I'm like, so I'm telling them, do this and we're going to get you a free roof. And these people are, okay, this and that. You're just talking to people, and he comes back and, and he's like, all right, so then you're good. I don't think I probably ever had another conversation with him about how to sell it.
That was it. You knew from there.
What was it? I still didn't even know. I'm like, well, where's the money going to come from? Who's the adjuster? What does he do? How do we do this? I still had no idea, but obviously just like anything, it was put your feet in there and get going. Right.
Yeah. That's the joys of being an entrepreneur. You just got to jump, right? Do it.
And you are. that stage, right? I mean, you're independent, you're working for yourself, but selling for somebody else, you're selling their brand, and you're on your own. And that's what it was. It wasn't, hey, let me hold your hand all the way through. Now, I know that, knowing you well enough after the fact that there was going to be more training and all those things, but it was, hey man, you're going to sink or swim.
Yeah. You got to see who's going to swim, who's worth spending time with,
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And so what I, kind of come to learn, and I obviously we kind of move forward from there, things progress. But one thing that always stuck out for me with you was when it was about a structure, meaning, no matter what, no matter how small you were, it seemed there were people in places, and there was structure, and there was organization, and this is how things were going to go. And, at that time we were small, still, had to do a little bit more than what a lot of companies would have their people do now. But you believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was explained to me that, hey, keep the guy doing what the guy's good at, right? So if he's good at selling, don't take him off the street to have him sitting there building jobs or running the supply house all day long. Because if he's running the supply house, what's he not doing? He's not making any money, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and I think salespeople in general are, good at a couple of things, right? And when you take a salesperson away from what they enjoy and what they're good at, and that's the age-old thing. And I've been through it with, I think at the most we probably had 35 salespeople, maybe 40 salespeople, and today I have, 1.5, maybe 2. But I think one thing that goes along with it is that salespeople in general want to be selling. That's what they're good at. And if you try and cram things down their throat, like, hey, I need you to sit in front of this CRM and fill every damn drop box out and radial button, and you know what I mean? Every job is going to be 45 minutes to enter into the CRM. Well, you're taking away from a personality factor for a salesperson. It's better to, salespeople still have to do some things. You can't just say, hey, I signed it, now take it from there. But I think it's better to have someone else doing the minutia of sales, and having salespeople, if you're sitting at a kitchen table or shaking hands with a customer, that's where you're making money for this, for the company as a good salesperson. Not all salespeople are good salespeople. Some salespeople are mediocre at best, and, maybe a mediocre salesperson, some of those other things are, fit into their personality. But I will say the star salespeople that I know, from the roofing industry, from exterior industry, from, even now in the pool industry, the stars are good at one or two things. And one of them is kind of creating that relationship and managing that relationship with the customer and convincing that customer to, to do what you want and to buy from you. And they're generally not good at, or don't like doing, paperwork. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's probably putting it mildly, right, on the paperwork side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're probably right on that. And I think everybody's got to have their place. And if you can keep people doing what they're good at, recognize that, and allow them to have that ability to do that, I think that's when you start to find specific success. And I think early on, as a business owner, and me watching you, and then with all the businesses that I've had, a lot of times you end up, what you have to do is, let's face it, just don't have the revenue. So everybody's wearing too many hats. And like I said, you're only good at certain things. You got the guy who's, probably should be the perfect for ordering, keeping track of numbers, doing just that. And then it all snowballs into more problems, and being able to find a way to, stay steadfast in who's doing what, or if you are doing that part and you have to, because you don't have the resources, the revenue to, hire that specific person, recognizing and treating yourself like you were that person, meaning holding yourself accountable for those tasks. And I think that goes to one of the things that I learned, and I don't want to, I don't mean to keep, I was thinking back, I knew you were going to talk today. I was thinking back, what are some of the things, come to my mind when I talk about Chad Nikkel, and, mentioned a couple of them, but one of the biggest things that I learned, and you probably would think that this was nothing that ever registered with me, but you said to me one day, you gotta find a way to compartmentalize your time.
Yeah.
And you gotta find a way to help the people that you're responsible for compartmentalize their time.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It really is. And along with that, right people, right seat, right? I don't know if you ever read the book Traction, but having the right people in the right seat also allows, that to fit. But compartmentalizing time, just a brief thing on that. I feel like that everybody in the organization, I have the girl that's answering my phones, we do time blocking, like, hey, from 8 a.m. to 9 o'clock, we do this. And we still have to answer phones in between or whatever. But if you don't do that, you're not getting shit done. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's Friday at 2 o'clock and we have this insurmountable task of inputting all this data from the week from an office environment. And if all we would have done was block out at a certain time every day, 30 minutes or whatever, to do that task, it doesn't become this insurmountable thing. And I think entrepreneurs in general, CEO types and type of personalities in general don't always compartmentalize time well, because we have a lot of stuff going, I said this to you as recent as last week, is like, hey, if it's not on my calendar, it probably isn't getting done, because I have a lot of shit going on, and I calendar a lot of stuff just because I know it's in there. I had my operations manager out sick Thursday and Friday this last week, and I was covering his stuff on Friday, and my calendar had like 16 damn items on it, but the reality of it is, if it's not in there, I know at the end of the day, every one of those items got done. But if it's not, if it's not in there and not blocked out, I probably am pushing it to the next day or whatever. I'm not getting it done.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right on that. I barely have enough time to get through that. And that's about the only way I can know that if there were things that, listen, this just has to get done. If it isn't in there, listen, how accessible are we? It's crazy, right? I mean, we're so accessible now more than ever, whether you're getting hit on Facebook or on whatever it is, people can get you, messenger, text, calls, it's crazy. So there's always a distraction. There's always a way to find time to not do what has to be done, And I think, so going back to, identifying, what your role is, and whether or not, is it one role, is it three roles, because that's what your resource is going to allow, that's fine. So if you're going to wear those hats, then like you said, I think at 10 a.m. to 11, if you're doing purchase orders, because that's what's got to get done for the upcoming projects, then at 10 o'clock, do purchase orders. Shut that phone off. Don't even look at any other texts, and do them. Be done with them. Now they're done, right? Because otherwise, it's so easy to get distracted. And the truth is, when it's those things that you're, if you're not a big fan of doing the purchase orders or, whatever it is you may be doing, distraction is very welcome, right? I mean, text, I can, I'll finish this up in a bit. It's just so easy to do that. And, that's probably why you shouldn't have been in that spot in the first place, but you put yourself in there. You got to own it, right?
Yeah. Well, and like you say, today's world, everything finds us. And, I'm experimenting with things like, because if you look at every damn email ding that comes across your phone, it'll drive you crazy, right? So, I'm experimenting and taking my own personal life. And it's like, hey, I look at emails at 10 o'clock and at 4 o'clock. I don't look at them in between. I look at and respond and try and get to zero inbox at those times. And, it's not a new concept. There's other people, talking about it. But from my, my perspective, I'm really trying to focus on building the current business that I'm in and not be just as distracted. And those outside things that allow you to procrastinate and not do what you should be doing, they can be kind of, you got to control it and just say, hey, I don't do, I don't respond. I don't answer phone calls at a specific time. Like you said, just at 10 o'clock, not answering until the purchase orders are done. That is key. That's key to actually making that growth and getting a business larger.
Yeah. That actually brings me to a really, really good thing. And I, think you'd be a good one to answer this, but so as you're trying to, stay on point with anything that you're doing and how everything comes to us, one of the things I think not all entrepreneurs are the same, but enough of us share enough commonality in it. It's a little bit in our DNA, right? But one of the things that, I'm curious of is, and we probably pretty relevant for a situation that we talked about here last week, but how do you vet all of the things that come to your mind? And what I mean by that is guys like us, our brain's spinning all the time, right? We're seeing something and we're seeing the angles. We're seeing, okay, look what we could do with this. If we had this in place, look what we could do with it. We could spin that up and we could monetize that. We could make some money over here, right? It's just always going on, or opportunities are always coming our way that, would be the same thing. Somebody brings it to us and says, look what I figured out. Or, what do you think about this? How do you, what's your vetting process with that? Or is it I'm not that guy. This is what I'm focused on right now. Maybe at the end of the year, I'll open my mind to, listening to a couple of those things I was thinking about, or, I take one a year and think about that as my next growth piece, because I know for a lot of us, it's coming all the time, right? It's coming all the way. So what's your thoughts on that? Do you have a way to vet that a little bit?
Well, and it kind of goes with Derek's question there, like what's a good idea, or what's a bad idea? But I think for me, the answer is I've got a lot of ideas all the time, right? And a lot of them are kind of around my current business way, the old, let's scratch our own itch first, right? Like what are ways that, for instance, last year we come up with this idea of doing Aquaman pool parties, right? And so essentially, hey, you got a 10-year-old kid, he wants to have a pool party, and you go down to Leslie's Pool Supply and you spend $300 on floaty shit and whatever for your pool. And you set up this party and you never look at this stuff again. It's ruined. You got to buy it the next time. So why not have your pool guy, Aquaman, set up a party for you, and, we'll bring in some nice stuff, be branded, some equipment, make it, set this party up, clean your pool, get it all ready. And then, you have this party and we'll come clean it up the next day. It's all good. You don't have to go down to the store. It's fantastic. Your neighbors are like, wow, who's this awesome pool guy you have, right? Well, so I had this fantastic idea, and everybody that I told about this idea, like, this is a home run. Like, nobody's doing this. It's a home run, right? So I go and I put all the costs in. I figure out what this is going to be, what I can sell it for, et cetera, et cetera. I spend $6,000 on stuff. And, all summer we've done like 3. It has not really worked that well. Now, what's came of it, believe it or not, we brand kind of realtor events, right? And they have open houses and whatnot. And obviously it's a referral partner for us. So what's came of it is we set up some of these events for these realtors, and we kind of do it free because it's branding our business, but that it's morphed into that idea. The original idea turns out wasn't that good, because people are like not really responding to the marketing of it. But it's morphed into something else. And I think that, am I upset that the original idea hasn't really worked the way I wanted it to? Yeah, not really. It's part of being an entrepreneur. It's like, you know what? You got to try it. You got to roll the dice. If I didn't feel like it was a good idea, I wouldn't have rolled the dice, right? And the other way that I do that kind of vetting process, I have like a series of people that I talk to about it. So I have a business coach, and I meet with him every 3 weeks, and he asks me if, he keeps me accountable. He says, hey, we talked about 3 weeks ago, you're going to do this. Have you done it? I got to look him in the eye and say, no, I haven't, or yes, I have, which that keeps me accountable. It's probably the main reason I have a business coach. And the other reason is this very thing. I can bounce ideas. I can, write it on a whiteboard, and we can talk about, is this a good idea or is it not? And we can kind of work through the process together, and he sees things that I might not see along the way. And that kind of group of people, whether it's a business coach, whether it's people that you know in other industries that might be business owners that you hang out with, having someone to kind of bounce ideas off of, not necessarily vet the pure numbers of an idea, but to bounce ideas off of, I think is invaluable. And I think entrepreneurs in general have less people to talk to. It's lonely at the top, right? You're not going to go to your wife and say, I'm worried about making the mortgage payment this week or this month because the business is struggling. And you're sure as heck not going to go to the employees and say, you know what, on Monday, we might not make payroll. We got to get some damn money collected, right? And you don't talk about those things. You don't have people to talk about those business issues that come up, and you need people around that. So it's important to find those people that you can talk openly with. I'm involved in Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a worldwide organization of entrepreneurs, and that membership, while it's expensive and it's a time commitment, it's hugely valuable for that thing. It's a confidential setting where you can talk about those business issues with a group of people that are in other businesses and know what you're going through. So that, I guess, I don't know if that really answered the question, but there's a couple of things in there. That's kind of how I vet that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's, and everybody's different, right? Because everybody, it comes to them different, and what they feel they need to vet or not vet, or what comes in, in and out of their brain is, but I think
one more point on that, Chris, sorry to cut you off, but I think entrepreneurs in general are more ready to roll the dice on something than the average person, right? So if somebody's going to quit a job, generally they either really hate the job or they already have something else in place. Entrepreneurs aren't like that. You kind of just, the old adage of jump off and build the wings is on the way down is a reality. And the real entrepreneurs that that hit it big, that are highly successful, are good at doing that. They're not overly cautious, because if you're overly cautious, you'll never take the first step. It's okay to vet and try and check, and that's important. But if you don't roll the dice, sometimes it's expensive, but you'll never know if you don't do it.
I think that's a good point. What I would say to that, in where I would elaborate on that, would be, so like you said, the entrepreneurs, the ones that are good, aren't afraid to roll that dice, aren't overly cautious. But I think sometimes that's confused with, there's a time and a place for that. And I think sometimes it's confused with staying the course. And so what I mean is, if you're, you want to open a new business, and it's a painting company or whatever it is, right? So you're going to jump, like you said, you're going to jump, you're going to build the wings on the way down. You know what? It's going to be good. You've got that ability to do that. You can stomach that, you can palate it, and you're okay doing it. But what I think the problem sometimes becomes is, okay, now you've done it and you made some stuff happen, and you've got this business now, and it's moving. It's got some things going, but there's going to become two things you can do. And one, it's going to be, okay, build that business right now that you got it off the ground, and put the infrastructure in around it, get it, so it's, I don't want to say autopilot, but spend the time with it, seeing it through all the way to where it's stable and can do its thing before that kicks in again and you make your next jump, because that entrepreneurial bone in your body says, I'm going to do it again. I found the next thing, which is cool. And, do those things, but finding that way to, hey, that painting business is still a painting business. Like, it needs to still be there. It needs to be, be branded, have a local name in the community, all those things that take time. And it's just, it takes time to get that. That can't be you can be bought, but it still isn't going to do it, overnight when you're doing your own. So I think sometimes I see guys confuse the two, like, hey, that's what it's about, jumping. Well, yeah, but when you cling on to one, see it through a little bit, get it stable before you jump to that next one, right? Stay the course on it.
Yeah, well, every business, I don't really care if it's a nail salon or a roofing business or a marketing company. Every business has levels of chaos and stability, right? So when you start a business, you're figuring out, hey, what are we selling? What do we charge? How do we make money, right? But then as the business starts to grow, until you're in the stability phase, the chaos phase of business, where you figure out and you put the right people in the right seats, the managers that are going to watch the day-to-day stuff, that period of time can be sheer and utter chaos. And it's okay, because once you get through that chaos, when you get the people in place and you get the business, like you say, kind of going on its own, that next phase is stability. And the problem with the stability phase of business is that's when the real goal setting, in chaos phase, it's all fine and good to say, hey, we want to do $1 million in revenue, or we want to do 10 million in revenue, whatever. But you don't really have the structure in place to really hit the real numbers. But when you hit stability phase, now you got to hold yourself as an entrepreneur accountable to, hey, okay, now we have the stuff in place. Now we're going to use this phase of business to hit those numbers and to really get there. I mean, you talk about let's just say it's a local painting company, right? Well, maybe the first 50 jobs are just, I mean, obviously how to paint houses, whatever you're painting. The first 50 jobs or so might be figuring out the process. What do we do first when we pull up to the house? Do we power wash the house first? Do we tape the windows? I mean, I don't know. I don't paint houses, but you're figuring out those things. But then you have the process in place, right? So now the next 100 jobs is working the stability phase, So, but obviously the danger of stability is, it's just good enough, right? So, you have to be kind of working that stuff.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it. The work still needs to get done, and then, and once you figure out how you're able to do it with your resources that you've been able to put in place, you get those first 100 painted, and you can start to recognize that it took this many people to produce one paint job. And it's not just the guys painting the house. It took this many people, meaning we had to have somebody back at the office answering phones, so that I wasn't answering the phone so that I could paint the house, or so that I wasn't answering the phones so that I could be out bidding more jobs to get to that 100. And so that, Mike, my guy, could be out there, taping off, and Johnny could be doing this, right? So you have to figure in all of that, how many it takes to produce one. And then, the next thing would be, how do you scale it, right? I mean, you can think about scalability from the very beginning, and once you've been around a while and you start to look at it, and I know you well enough, and it's anytime, we look at anything, it's right out the gate, is that something that we're going to be able to scale? And I know that's a big term that everybody uses, but it's true. But once you start to really see and understand what that truly means, I mean, we all understand the definition of the word, but what does that mean, and what does it mean to me? And it's recognizing the situation for what it is. And some things, you're going to give something as an entrepreneur, whether it's time or it's money. And so at some point you become where you're in a situation of, I cannot give time. I can give my insight, but I can't give time. I can't work it. I can't make it all happen. Or, all I'm good for on this one is money. So what things do we have in place to ensure that my money's going to go in the right spot? It's the right investment to do this, as we try to do it. And I know that, we've had enough conversation, I think, with that, with resources and scaling. I think there's a lot of people that would take a lot of benefit from just hearing a little bit, like when you're looking at, and I know what we didn't talk about is all the success you've had in your career with roofing and now into pools. I mean, perhaps you took a company in Colorado from nothing and, you know, sell the thing. I don't remember, you know, 6 years later for, you know, the company's doing 16-20 million dollars a year. And, you know, that's everybody's dream. You look at it as a riding this right off in the sunset. My wife wants to live in Arizona. I moved to Arizona. Well, I can't just sit on the bench. I got to do something. I'm going to start a pool company. Well, when you do that, it isn't just that simple, right? So as you started when you started your pool company, it was the same things. Like, hey man, what you up to these days? Well, I'm getting in the pool business. Pool business. All right. Well, I know there's a lot of pools in Arizona, and that's where you're at. That's cool. You know, it must be competitive, you know, and obviously you know that going in, you know exactly what you're getting into. But what I love was the same things that I knew of you were coming out right away, and you were staying your course to your plan. You were going to look at, you know, trying to do your market analysis, but, you know, how can I get, this guy's already doing it pretty well, but he doesn't quite know how to take it to the next level. Maybe I can get some of that guy's route. Maybe I can buy some of that guy's route, right? Were those some of the things that you're looking at doing? Picking up that guy's route, a small one here, a small one there. Next thing you know, you're growing how many pools you're doing. You know, you're able to put on another guy, right? So now we're starting to talk about our resources.
Yeah.
But I think, is this right? Am I on the right track?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to 2 points there. First of all, if you ever want to talk about what not to do when selling a company, that's a whole nother podcast. There are multiple books I could write on that. But to the point of scalability, I think that in, you know, roofing companies versus service businesses in general are difficult to scale to a certain degree. And I think that in my experience in the past, there's some people in the roofing industry that are better at it than others. Obviously, you and I know some of the same people. But I think that in service business in general, this is an issue that service entrepreneurs have. And from the pool business perspective, I live in the Phoenix Valley. We have 500,000 pools in the Phoenix Valley, and it's miserably hot in the summertime, you know, 115 plus degrees here. And our biggest issue to scalability of the pool business, I'm finding after doing this for 5 years, is keeping technicians from burning out, because it is the worst job in the world in July or June. June is the hottest month of the year in Phoenix, believe it or not. But it is the worst job in the world in June because it's Groundhog Day. We're doing the same damn thing every single day. It's 115 degrees outside. Nobody wants to do it. But it's the best job in the world in November. It's fantastic. 75 degrees every day. You get to go out and walk around outside. It's fantastic. But in the summertime, it's horrible. Well, in the roofing business, some of that is kind of the same way. I mean, you know, there's some things that are great when you're a sales guy selling roofing, but then, you know, at the end of the storm, you're trying to get them collected. You know, I mean, part of it, this is the reason that sales guys struggle in the roofing business, is it's not all what it is in the first 30 days of a storm, right? So service companies in general have a scalability issue when it comes to which portions of your business are going to be the weak link. And in the pool business, it's that technician out in the field. And the scalability of this business, I mean, I bought a very small business. It's 25 pools. And today we have 750, and I did that in about 5 years. So we see 750 pools every single week, and we service them and take care of them. And you know, people in the pool business say that that's a pretty good growth. My experience as an entrepreneur, I like exponential growth. I don't feel like it's that great, but that also kind of has, you know, plays into my personality that I'm always trying to grow bigger, faster, stronger, more. I don't really know the meaning to the word enough. That's just not my nature. When I started this business, actually, my wife said, "Hey, what do you think's a good number?" And I said, "Yeah, probably 120 pools. Yeah, I think they'll be small enough. We'll manage it well. We won't have to have a bunch of people." And I'm like, "Go ahead and slap me if we get to a point where, you know," and then here we are, 750 pools. But, you know, in our, you know, it's not. I
actually remember having a conversation with you when you told me I'm just looking to do like 100, 120 pools, you know, just kind of nice and easy, just chill. And I get to be here, and it's all good. I'm like, okay.
You're like, yeah, I know, Chad, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. I think that, you know, there's, you talk about that, And these guys, you know, it's, hey, we're going to do, this is the one thing that always gets me. You talk about guys say, you know, hey, you know, what kind of revenue you go in and I talk to a business owner, what kind of revenue did you do this year? We did 1.7. Okay. What are you planning on doing next year? I think we're going to do 3.5. Okay, great. Well, what makes you say that? Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, the year before I did about 800,000 and I doubled that, you know, and, you know, 1.7. So I think I can, you know, and it makes sense, right? You know, I think I can just double that up, you know, kind of grow that way. And, you know, it's like, well, so you're just going to double every year. I mean, isn't that great? But, you know, but the thing is, so looking at me, so then my next question is always, okay, so what's your plan to get there? You want to do the 3.8 or whatever it is. What's your plan to get there? And they look at you with those, like, what do you mean? I just told you my plan. I did 1.8 or 800 last year, did 1.8 this year, we do 3, you know, it's simple, right? That's
just more money in marketing, right? That's all it takes.
Right, you just spend more money. Yeah. And, you know, that's so common. It's crazy. And, you know, what killed, this is what really gets me. So you go back to that roofing industry or other ones that have dependent on weather. So guy who did 800,000 the year before and did 1.6 this year. And I look at it and I go, but you had a weather event this year where 200,000 homes in your city were damaged by hail. I mean, what if that doesn't happen next year? You're still going to get to 3.5. You know what I mean? They just assume because they did it this year, they don't take into consideration, well, they only did it because they couldn't even tell you how they did it. It just happened. And that's when it's the hardest, is when they can't tell you specifically, this was exactly my plan. I knew that if I wanted to do 1.5 million, that based on historical data, I needed to spend 8% of that in marketing. So 8% of 1.5 million, there's my marketing budget. And I knew that I needed to have this many different marketing outlets. I knew that a sales rep can only run this many appointments per day based on the layout of my city. And that in order to do that, I need to have this many inbound leads every day. I know that my guys are currently closing at 35%. So in order to hit those numbers, I got to, that's what I got to do. There's none of that. Yeah. And that's so hard to see, let alone what we haven't talked about. And this is good, is absolutely as well as anybody I've ever met, because I watched you go through it and was a part of it for a while, is you've never even experienced. So we'll go back to this guy, the $3.5 million, what it takes to produce that volume, to provide that service. And so I know that in their mind, where they're at is, well, I'll just hire some more people. Yeah. Well, one, come on. Now you're hiring under the gun. So, you're hiring whoever you can get to work. It's not the right process. You're probably not going to get the right people. You don't even have the systems or structure in place for those people to fall. You just think you're magically going to produce 2 times more than you've ever produced. You had troubles this year, right? But part of us just, well, I'll figure that out when I get there, right? I mean, that's I'll figure out how to get it done. I just want to get it sold. I'll figure out how to get it done when I get there. That's how we think. And, we're all probably guilty of that, right? I mean, we've experienced that.
I mean, everything starts with sales, but I will say that having gone through iterations of, 0 to 100 employees and, levels in revenue, my experience has always been that the first 5 million in revenue annually is pretty easy. It's breaking through the next 2 levels, right? From a construction perspective, like roofing and those types of businesses that are, $20,000 sales. The first 5 million, like I said, pretty reasonably easy, but the management structure that it takes to be efficient and actually pull off the higher revenue businesses and make money at it is the issue. So 5 to 10 million is a pretty big jump, actually. And that actually having the structures in place and the right people in place to actually do that and still make money. There's plenty of roofing companies out there that might do 15 million in revenue but they're making a fraction of what they should be making. They're doing 15 million in revenue and, taking home, 5% to bottom line with an incredible amount of risk, when in reality, real businesses that are in it for the long haul have to make a bigger number than that to the bottom line. And that maybe the first 3 million or the first 5 million in revenue, they may double that or maybe even triple that, to the bottom line. But for whatever reason, as you get higher in revenue, there's a lot of leakage. And I think that those types of entrepreneurs that have never experienced that don't always know how to manage that growth. And, it's easier just to maybe throw money at something, like you say, throw marketing. Hey, you, as your marketing ramps up and you get more and more leads, your closing ratio should go up with it in reality, not the other way around, So, and in a lot of cases, it happens the opposite. Like, hey, our inbound leads have doubled and our closing ratio is 15% to the worse of what it was before. Well, why is that? That's a big dollar amount of money. And I see that in my past, and what we've been successful in doing as we went through the larger phases in growth was working on follow-up and how to, close better and keep track of things better. And that's what makes successful, marketing campaigns and successful sales campaigns, and ultimately keeps the revenues where they should be and the profits where they should be.
Yeah, the metrics, right? I mean, because that's, you see so often, revenue can be the scariest thing, the most misleading thing. Our revenue is going, and especially if you're coming from small, you see those numbers going, you see those contracts coming in, you're like, hey man, things are going great. I mean, we're really headed the right direction. But if obviously bottom line, everybody understands that you got to be profitable in the end, but what are you measuring between here and there to get there? You see the revenue going up, you want to have, be profitable, but how many metrics are you looking at, and what's your process to be looking at those things along the way, such as, our quantity of leads coming in has gone up. What's our closing percentage, as a team, what's, individual spikes, whatever, how our sales manager, all the different things that go into it. That's how you can ensure that the bottom line ends up where you need it to as well, as far as percentage wise. Because the worst thing, what you see happen is you see a company grow by 80% in revenue, and they were, but then you ask them, well, what was your closing percentage last year? And we were at 36, or percentage of profit last year, we're at 36. Then this year we're at 3.5. Yeah. But we did times the revenue. Well, let's still do the math. Now you got 10 times the headache.
And the problem is,
or a little bit less or a little bit more money, that sucks, right? I mean, if you're going to do 10 times the headache, you want 10 times the success, right? I mean, that's the only reason of taking it all on. And it's hard, I think, once that machine is moving.
Yeah. You hit on something there. There's the big issue is that entrepreneurs and for sure closely held businesses get trapped in this management by the P&L. The P&L, you should never manage a company, a growing company, by the P&L. The P&L is like looking in the rearview mirror. The P&L happened 60 days ago. It's too late. It's done. It's done. You have got to get KPIs in place, key performance indicators that actually tell you as it's happening, like what the leads are, what the sales are, what the closing percentage is, how many times does it take, how many times have I talked to these customers? And, every business got to come up with their own and what they drive into. But those KPIs, I think every business should have 6 to 10 of those that you're looking at and on, a daily, weekly basis to some degree. Probably not daily, but, a weekly basis. I have 2 meetings a week with my management staff. I mean, obviously I'm involved in my business to some degree, but I have key management staff meetings twice a week. And I hate meetings. I don't have meetings for the case of having meetings. But at those meetings, we have 2 or 3 reports that we look at, and they're KPI reports. I look at profit and loss occasionally. I look at P&L, maybe once a month. But if the KPIs is what's driving the P&L, and like, forget the P&L. P&L is important for your CPA. What you as the business owner need is you need something that's happening in front of the car, not in the car, and certainly not behind it. You need to be able to see what's happening in front of it. And the only way to do that is actually KPIs. And I think that whatever your relationship as an entrepreneur or business owner is with whether your marketing company or your sales manager or even your office staff, they can pull that data together so that you can make those decisions as the owner, or the manager, chief manager, who's ever making those decisions, and actually, hey, when you get to 10 million in revenue, there's actually money left over.
Yeah, I think you absolutely nail it from the standpoint in what you see is the only numbers that your accountant ever sees is the P&L, right? And so if you're looking at the P&L, you're looking at the same way. If you let your accountant run your business, you will be out of business. And you certainly, if not, you'll never grow, and something else will put you out of business that you weren't getting out in front of. You're stagnating, right? Because, hey, our P&L is this and that. But if that's all that matters, you're not out in front of anything, just like you said, it's behind you, it's done, it's over, but if I see my guys are hitting their marks, that our closing percentage is on point this month, and all I got to do, as long as I know that I was closing at, 30% even, if I was closing at 30% and I know that if I put more money into this and I bring in more leads and that 30% doesn't go down, what do I know is happening? Obviously there's a balance there where you can't overspend on what it costs to get you those leads. But at the end of the day, if I can look at it and go, I'm keeping pace on that, that's huge.
Well, and I think one of the things to think about, 30% is just a number. So why is it 30%? How many times did I follow up with, let's say I got 10 leads, this sales guy got 10 leads for the week, right? Okay. So how many times have they been followed up with? What product are we selling? That'll tell you based on the product, hey, we're closing more with this product than we are with that one. Okay, well, there you go, right? Sell that product. So those things actually drive closing percentage. Closing percentage is math, right? But the things that drive closing percentage, if you can get to that, now instead of 30%, now we're 40%, right? And that sales guy, instead of wanting draws every damn week, he's sitting fine because you helped him as the manager. Like, wow, I see that, you're only following up twice with these customers. Now we bumped it to 4 times, and wow, the next week, look what happened. You're selling, brown shingles and over here you're selling weatherwood, and those damn things are selling. So let's sell weatherwood, or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been a roofer for a while.
Brown sample board, right? Lose the brown sample board. Take the
leave that in the truck.
That's where you get to is if you're tracking those things in the middle, then you can do that. You can go and break that down and figure out, like you said, there's so many variables from there. Like you said, closing percentage is one thing, but what's contributing to that? What, we have 12 different products. This one statistically closes at this percentage because, listen, at the end of the day, if I tried to sell it, it's because I already sold this and everybody needs this pool conditioner if they chose to have us do it. So of course my closing percentage is super high on that. And, making sure that that's not what's affecting the other one or whatever with that. But, at the end of the day, just the point would be is manage down on what's getting you there, rather than where you got to. And I think it'd be a lot better. Listen, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's been great just hanging out and talking. I feel like you're right here, so
cool.
I haven't bumped into you in a while, so, it's the first face-to-face we've had for a while. So, but it was great. I hope you do it again sometime. And I think that a lot of people, you could go on forever. I know you could. So, but I think, people will hopefully learn a few things maybe from this, not so much on my side, but on yours. And it's,
I always like talking. It's fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. And You take care. Enjoy that weather. It's got to be getting to be nice now. It's is it down into the 90s yet?
Yeah, since we had an eclipse today, I think it's like 5 degrees, cooler today. I don't know. Half the sun was covered for like 15 minutes or something. So, yeah, it's a good thing. A good thing.
Right.
Well, hey, yeah, sounds great, man. Good talking to you. And I haven't seen Derek Brown in a while. So, hi, Derek. Good to see you, man. Anyways, we'll talk anytime, Chris. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right.
See ya.
You bet. Bye.
All right. Do you remember to shut that off?